I think a lot of it was, and we can dive into it even further if you want, but just, really, I wanted to move back home to Michigan. Michigan's been my home. It's always going to be my home. So I always wanted to come back home somehow, some way. Um, Kevin leaving to New York. Although I did want to go with him and stay with him, I was with him for 7 years. It was never my intention to really leave working with Kevin. It
Sure.
was just more or less, I think the time was right for me to move back home. So
Nice. And you also
yeah,
oversaw relations, or you had other clients that were in boxing as well as, I think, Big Sean, if I'm correct, right?
yeah. So I actually wasn't a client of Big Sean. I know had worked with Sean, and he's from the Detroit area. I actually know his chef, but I have worked with him. The boxing clients, Amir Khan,
Sure.
he was an Olympic athlete, so I got the opportunity to work with him. A few other boxers as well, um, and it really opened my eyes up to the different type of kind of nutrition plan that each sport, not only each sport, but each athlete needs. Because at that time, I was really only working with NBA guys and never really jumped into weight loss or weight gain or anything like that. But then when I moved to California, I had the opportunity to work with a couple boxers, a couple football guys, and those guys were both uh, Navarro Bowman
Yeah.
and Donald Penn, which is an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So he wanted to actually lose weight, but those guys are eating 4,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
So how do we condense it a little bit, but also, because he wanted to be quicker on his feet. So, I mean, they come to you with a specific plan, especially when they want to lose weight. There is a specific plan that they want to do, and not necessarily they know the nutrition plan. That's why I'm there, but they want to get better on the field. Whether that's 10, I want 10 more tackles, so I need quicker feet, or hey, Penn, I let too many guys pass me last year, or I had a knee injury or something like that. I want quicker feet. How can we accomplish this? So we sit down and we figure out a game plan where nutrition and the eating part of it, the meal plan part of it, comes into play, and it surely does. And you can see that through the uptick in the past 10 years of private chefs for young athletes nowadays. I mean, you're talking about superfoods is exploding, and even now with COVID too. I mean, the private chef industry is just kind of blowing up residentially, with residents and stuff. But more or less for the athletes, it's the younger athletes are kind of getting keen to this, and the agents are getting keen to this. That having somebody oversee the nutrition plan is not only going to be healthy for my athlete, but it's also going to prolong the career of my athlete. So there's a lot of different factors in it that go into play, and it is honestly, there should be more private chefs or cooks or whoever overseeing these athletes. If they ever want to, if they want to be great one day, I think that it's really vital. To have somebody on your team that oversees that part of the athlete, because at the end of the day, their body, it's their talent, but also they're putting their body on the line every day. So they need to refuel, they need to revamp, they need to get things back up and going. So it's really key.
So many questions just to from that.
Sorry, I went on a ramble right there,
No,
but
it's
it's like
it's great. Well,
it's so true though. I mean, it really is.
well, that's why I wanted to sit down with you, is because I mean, it's just fascinating to me. I come from a culinary background. I've been in the food industry for 7 years at this point now, but I feel like you're the unsung hero, or chefs can be the unsung hero for those that are competing. So maybe next time at a later date, we'll have to reconvene and do another one. Um,
Yeah.
is there a formula though? Getting picking back on what you were saying, is there a formula, like a direct formula? An athlete sits down with you and says, "Hey, I need more tackles." What's your process? What's your thought process from there?
So I'm not a nutritionist and I'm not a
Sure.
dietitian. I'll never claim to be, but I've had the opportunity to work with a good amount of nutritionists and a good amount of dietitians. and I got the opportunity to pick their brain. So I do feel somewhat comfortable without reading a blood report or a scan report or reading, glucose levels or anything like that. Although those are helpful, I do feel comfortable going in and recommending certain foods and certain plans. Um, it varies from each person. Like I said, and it varies from from playoff time to in season to all-star break. It's a little looser. We can have those foods that they enjoy. If they have 3 days off, we want to give them some foods that they enjoy, whether it's, Amir really liked Indian type of food and that type of food. Kevin really likes, soul type of food. So, I mean, it all will depend. I think when I sit down with a client, I always want to know, like you said, if they want to get more tackles, how do we achieve that? So, where are you at as far as weight goes? Where are you at as far as your eating habits go, your drinking habits too? Are you drinking, or are you, drinking soda, alcohol? What are we doing there on that level? So we can mitigate that, because that's a huge part of it, just getting enough fluids in your body. And then are you taking any vitamins? Are you taking any superfoods? Things like that. And 9 times out of 10, it's a no. So just incorporating these little aspects into their diet, whether it's, chia seeds, or whether it's dark leafy greens into a spinach or into a smoothie, just incorporating these on a daily basis makes a huge difference. And you'll see your client will tell you in a week and a half after doing these certain things with these vitamins or superfoods, electrolytes, coconut water, things like that, you'll start to get feedback from them. And then through that feedback, without a blood report, through that feedback, you can kind of navigate through there. So whether it's like, because every person's different, not everyone likes coconut water for electrolytes. So you got to, get different type of electrolytes, so not everybody likes spinach versus kale. How can we figure that out? But how can we incorporate that? And I think that's kind of how I navigate through it. I never just slam anybody with a dedicated menu unless it's on a super time crunch, like they have a month before their fight. But I kind of just work through that and see where they're at, and then just kind of work my plan from there.
With Kevin in particular, just as a big Warriors fan, like when it comes to finals or playoffs, you mentioned a little bit of change in diet there. Could you give us an example? Like, he loves soul food, so that maybe that can slip in the season. Come finals, though, is it just really strict on a specific meal? Yeah. Okay.
100%. So during every playoff I was with them, we did breakfast in the morning. So we do breakfast before their training in the morning. So it'd be like 9 a.m. and we'd have a pretty clean breakfast. And that's where I'd pump a lot of things in his smoothie. So, one day I do an acai smoothie with, berries and, Greek yogurt and things like that. And then the next day I might do more heavy in like oats and chia seeds, depending on how he's feeling, to get some extra carbs in him in the morning.
Sure.
After a game, maybe game 2 or game 3, I'd throw some oats in there to get some extra carbs and energy in them. So we'd have breakfast in the morning, and then when he'd come back, we would do, he, typically would take a nap or just hang out.
Yeah.
And then at 3:34, it was pretty much on the dot. 4 o'clock, he'd eat lunch. It'd be a heavier lunch. In between breakfast and lunch is like a pregame snack, and that snack would be like, your power bites,
Sure.
that you guys
sell,
like something like that.
Yeah.
Or something like a turkey jerky and a platter of fruit or something like that. So just something to nibble on just to keep them going.
Nice.
And then we'd have a heavier lunch at 4, and that heavier lunch would consist of a protein, a starch, and a vegetable. We'd also serve a small platter of fruit, and then along with that a smoothie. Wow. So it's really like you're and the cooking's different too. Like I'm not really using any oils. Like practice days, I use more or less, I can use avocado oils and things like that. but I just want to keep it really light. I want to keep it really light. So I'm grilling, or, I'm using brown rice, and I'm not really, you know, hitting it with a lot of spices. I just want to keep, the stomach nice. I want to keep the body light. I just want to keep them full for an hour, 2 hours. He goes the pregame and he'll eat a little snack there too at the game, like a power bite or something like that. But yeah, I mean, my goal is to get him full, keep him clean, and make sure that he's ready to go. I mean, we've done the work to that point, right? We've done the work all the way up to playoffs. Now it's just keeping it tight, keeping it tight.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything in that the food industry can do that to solve a void that exists, or is everything there for an athlete when it comes to food?
Um, Man, that's a tough question. You know what? I think that they have access to really at the stadiums. They really have access to everything they need. I think one thing that they can do, and I think they are starting to do, NBA in particular, because that's just what I really know. I don't know about MLB or,
Sure.
but when these guys come in, they need more training on health and nutrition.
Yeah.
They simply do. I mean, I think it's like a 2 hour training that they go through. They get training a lot on media. They get training a lot on, social media training and things like that. And a few guys are trying to get this implemented into the system more, that there is a better training when these guys come in, and there's more resources for them through the NBA, through the NBA sites, and, how these guys contact the Players Association and things like that. I think there needs to be some resources. There needs to be a head of nutrition. There needs to be a chain of command there that, a young guy like Kevin, when he first came in the league, can contact somebody and say, hey, I need some help with this. And that person's like, yeah, we have somebody in your area, or let me find something. You know what I'm saying? Like, just
Absolutely.
something like that. I feel like the food part is all, like, pretty much all there. They get high amenities. Everything's beautiful, right?
Sure.
But I just feel like some of the resources just could be better implemented. But it's somewhat of an afterthought. But I think in this day and age, you're seeing a lot more. Like 5 years ago, it wasn't really a thing, but now I think the Players Association is kind of getting hip to it and understanding that these players really do need to start taking care of their bodies and giving them the resources that they need.
Yeah. You're not the first one who's told me that. I've talked about this for years because
Yeah.
it runs deep, right? With culture and their upbringing. And
Yep.
it's just, I mean, there's a large part of the country that doesn't live and eat the same way that others part of the country do on the coasts.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, it's a tough one, but I hear you.
Yeah.
So just to give a little backstory, I've done some research, and you were first introduced to Kevin through Chef Sean, if I'm correct, who was overseeing the Team USA for basketball.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
And then you went to go basically audition for Kevin, who was with LeBron and a few other Miami Heat players.
Yeah.
Dinner went well, but were you just as nervous was that the dream? Were you as nervous as can be going into that?
So it's weird. I wasn't really super nervous. I was more or less like really focused.
Nice.
I don't know how to explain it, but I wasn't like,
it was your job almost.
yeah, I wasn't really like nervous. I was more like focused. When you get into a project and things could go wrong, but you try to prohibit those things to go wrong. So you focus 100%, and you do the best that you can, and the best you can at the time that you're living is the best you can do.
Yeah.
So you walk away from that and you say, well, I did the best that I can, and you just work hard, through it. And so anyways, yeah, so I went out there and I cooked at LeBron's house.
Yeah.
And LeBron, his Chef Brock at the time,
right,
was a Schoolcraft graduate, and I'm a Schoolcraft graduate here in Michigan.
Yeah.
We kind of had that connection. And so she showed me around Akron, Ohio for a little bit and showed me around the grocery stores and just we hung out. And yeah, I went back to the hotel and the next morning I woke up, went to the grocery stores. I had a few that were open, a few that I had to wait. And I have a few funny stories from that. And I guess, I don't know, I'll tell one, but one is um, the grocery store wasn't open. So I ended up going back tracking to a different grocery store and corn was on my menu because I was making a Lopez because it was the Super Bowl game. So I wasn't making really nutritious food. I was making, jerk, jerk shrimp and chicken wings and elotes and turkey dogs and just
Yeah,
football food, right? So,
totally.
so I had elotes on my menu, and I seen this a guy on the side. He had a corn stand, so I went to his corn stand, picked up some corn, and started shucking corn out of my Explorer because I had about 30 minutes until the grocery store opened at 9.
Yeah.
So I grabbed a grocery bag and I started shucking corn and, through the husks
Oh
in the
my
grocery
God.
bag. And I think like when I tell that story, I just want like, I guess anybody who's listening to this that, I mean, you really got to go after it, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter anything that you do, but if you get something that you really want to do, you really got to go after it. And I feel like that moment right there just kind of shows that I really wanted to go after that. I didn't sit on my pants and wait. I drove around looking for a new store. I saw a guy at corn stand. I stopped at the corn stand, asked him to buy some corn, and shucked the corn out of my damn truck. So it's like, I mean, and that's a true story. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if guys listen to this, whether you're a private chef or whatever industry you're in, I just think you got to go after it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we did that, and I cooked for them, and it went really well. And I met Kevin, I met his agent, and yeah, about 4 days later, they called me back and asked me to go to Oklahoma.
Nice.
And I said, sure, but let me check it out. Let me give me a couple days out there, see what it's about. And, I loved Oklahoma when I was there. To tell you the truth,
Yeah.
I know it's kind of an afterthought for people, but it's a great place to live, great place to raise a family. There's, people say there's nothing to do there, but there's stuff to do there. They got an NBA team, they got a AAA baseball team. So, one thing that got me when I was in Oklahoma is I know it sounds very small, but I was in Walmart and I dropped something on the floor. I don't know, it was a can or something. I was grocery shopping, and I dropped something, and somebody picked it up for me. I was like, no shit. And he was like, here you go. And, out here, people just walk past you, or, Chicago, people definitely walk past you in Chicago.
Sure.
But, out here, or on Oklahoma, they picked it up. And I just thought that was pretty cool. Light bulb went off in my head at that moment. And I was like, oh, okay, it's probably a place, that's good. And I was only 21 at the time too. So, I was a youngster,
Yeah.
So, moving to a new state, not knowing anybody in that state, cooking for an Olympic athlete. Yeah, so it was nice to have that type of area, good people that you could kind of call upon and network with, in that state. So
Yeah. Real quick, what do you think sold KD on you as a chef?
um I don't know. I never asked him that question. I
Yeah.
would like to think that it was my professionalism.
Nice.
I mean, I cooked for 12 people, lunch and dinner, all buffet style, in 12 hours. I
Yeah.
mean, for multi-million, for Olympic athletes, and I think I must have did pretty well, obviously, if he
Definitely.
called me back out. Yeah, I would think throughout my whole career, there was always a friendship, but it was always professionalism on my end. I mean, it was always that I had I was a chef first,
I love it.
100%,
Completely.
so.
Were there any surprises? You knew you were a fan of basketball before working for Kevin, I would imagine.
I was. You
Yeah.
know, another funny story.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
So I wore my pair of shoes. I had a comfy pair of shoes, and they were Adidas shoes. And Kevin's a Nike guy.
Yeah.
So my first time out there when I went to Oklahoma, I wore Adidas.
Yeah.
And the very next day, I got a pair of Nikes.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, that's hilarious. I was figured it was going that in that direction anyways.
That I was a basketball fan, but that I'm not a huge shoe guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really not a huge shoe guy. So
That's
I didn't
hilarious.
know. I was very naive to that.
Nice.
Uh,
Were there other surprises, I guess, or surprises about, Kevin, fans of his would appreciate from your eyes that you just didn't see coming?
um, you know, he has a pretty loyal fan base. I do have to say. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I know you kind of read the headlines in Oklahoma and things like that, and, but you know, those people in Oklahoma love Kevin. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, and I think that's a testament to just what kind of guy he is. You know, he's a very humble guy. You know, what you see is what you get. Good and the bad. You know, you might get some of the bad. You know, but it's going to be real bad. It's not going to be blow smoke up your butt bad. You know, it's going to be, hey, I made a mistake type of bad, and the good is the good. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what I think people can, if they really look at an athlete, you know, they can really appreciate that about them. That even athletes can kind of go through ups and downs, right?
Sure.
So I think that's kind of where his fan base really loves him, along with the titles and whatnot. But
Yeah.
but
No, that's a good point. I mean, as a Warriors fan, like probably how I was brought up, but I am loyal to those that deserve loyalty. If in a way, if that's what you mean. So,
yeah, 100%.
yeah. Well, let's finish off with one question. I mean, you mentioned food growing. I mean, in the short time I've been with Navitas in the natural food industry, I've seen it firsthand. I've been a part of it. You mentioned a lot of athletes learning more about food. What do you think the private chef, future holds? I guess if you could kind of dwindle it down to one thing.
Um,
Does that make sense?
yeah, I mean, I think I think because when I was young, I came in and I really didn't know too much about the nutrition part of things and blood work and how to speak to a nutritionist or a dietitian. Um, so I think on that end, I think there might need to be more training or different certifications for private chefs to come into,
Yeah.
um, because you're somewhat blind if you just kind of came up either cooking in a restaurant or not really having that upbringing or that training.
Sure.
I did go to school. I did have somewhat of a training, but I never worked for an athlete before, so it was kind of a learning curve for me. I think if there was one thing, it would be just kind of bridging that gap between a private chef and a dietitian. Typically because you're speaking to the team dietitian.
Sure.
To get the reports back and to get a little bit of help on what they're eating at the facility and things like that. There's a lot of little things that goes into it. And I think, if there was just somebody to kind of help them out and, kind of tell them about these little things that you kind of are going to go through, it'd probably save them an extra year of just trying to figure this stuff out,
Completely.
So again, it's the same thing with the Players Association. I just think there needs to be a little more help to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
I think, it would have helped me out too. I mean, if I came through with Chef Loving, and, I always gave him a call. He was my mentor. So I had that, but also too, you kind of gotta fly on your own and, figure it out through the team nutritionist, through your client, through people who are around them, the whole nine. So
Yeah, that makes total sense.
yeah.
Well, Chef, we should do this again sometime soon, or later on if you're up for it. But it was a pleasure
Yeah,
sitting down with you, man.
yeah, it was awesome. It was good seeing you.
Yeah,
And
totally.
yeah, we should get together again and just shoot me an email or give me a call or text or whatever. We'll get it done.
Sounds good. Well, have a good one,
All
Chef. I'll
right.
talk to you soon.
I like your bike.
Thanks, brother.
All right.
I'll
See
see you
ya.
later.